stuff for the elect life. That's McGee. I don't know where to start. There's like so much going on, right? Life has changed unbelievably dramatically in the last 10, 15 days. It's a whole, I always said this, and I have a lot of people that even said, Liz, you always used to say that. We're going to wake up one day and it's going to be a whole new world. And it really is. And it's never going to go back 100% to the way it was. There's been a real shift. We're moving ahead, full steam ahead. I wanted to say, I consider this to be, with the COVID-19, this virus, the beginning of the birth pains. We have just really gone. I have a couple of things I want to touch on really quick. This isn't so much a teaching as what I see. This is how I'm seeing it. And seeing it, I think, at some very high levels is fascinating. But we're at the place now of biblical proportions. Most people don't understand this. We're not dealing now with little regional things or something that affects a couple nations. We have just entered into a season where now things that are happening are going to be on biblical proportions, like worldwide, the nations. Or I would just say, always going global now. This is the time, and this is the important thing to navigate through this. If you don't have certain archetypes, when you read the prophets and try to understand, if you don't have certain archetypes understanding, and if you don't understand the different levels that scripture is on, third thing, and you don't understand the Gilgal, the cycle, prophecy, things continue to really keep happening over and over and over again. It's like how many times we go around this mountain? Well, until we get it right. We will ascend at some point. This thing will. But this concept of getting into biblical proportions, Yahweh, I believe, is the beginning of birth pains. They just come suddenly. This is the whole point. When a woman has, we know the season. I mean, obviously, I'm talking to the elect, and my main audience, I want people who I really consider to be, fellow sages, Bereans. This is for the elect. The point is, so you want to see it from a really high vantage point. You want to see this from Yahweh's point of view, what he's doing, and he's starting to thresh the nations. This is it. People and nations and the heavens, and the heavens represents, in this context, is one level, the other angelic orders that are over us, that do manipulate us and do interface. I mean, this is the other species. This is part of what I talk about when I talk about disclosure. Okay? The fallen angels. There's a whole history to this. I'm not going to go into that. But this, it says the sun and the moon will fall to the earth. But it's not talking literally, people. This is what I mean. You've got to grow up into this whole concept of how these archetypes work. We're talking about on the other side, the negative side. Remember, there's always two sides. The forces of darkness, in they're coded with the sun and the moon in certain instances. And because the sun and the moon, I mean, when you look at it, they rule the day and the night. There are no, you don't really get any archetypes bigger than that in the physical. Okay, so the sun and the moon. They're, one's going to be thrown to the ground. Okay, so obviously we can get out of the literal level. But coronavirus, is it going to be a friend or a foe? This is interesting because it's going to be both. Remember, Habakkuk said, who was a prophet, and he's talking to at a time of great turmoil, and he's saying, tell the righteous it will be well with them. But tell the wicked, woe to the wicked. I said this. For us, and I don't know if you feel, I have even during the virus, I mean, this is Psalm 91. You've got to live at a certain level of faith. You can't elevate your mind, your thoughts, your thought life, your emotions, your anxiety level, all the above the low-level chatter that's just trying to get you into fear, locked into anxiety, fear. It's going to be a very difficult season for what's coming up, these birthdays. If you're not really ready, I'm preparing for this child that's coming forth, which is okay. So stick to one archetype at a time. All right. This is a very interesting, because in my opinion, it shows how it's always the best of times and the worst of times. The way the world is working together, in one sense, and I always get the good Ephraimites in the world, the holy soul of Judah that's out there, all people that want to respond to this, people of good faith from everywhere, people who want to respond to this from a, you could even say humanitarian, we need to take care of people, you need to do everything possible. That is a good reaction. And make, even Trump, and I want to bring him into the discussion, is orchestrating so many parts of government and business and different, the military. In one sense, it shows, number one, how global we are, how massive these things now are that are coming at us, and how we have the capability to go global in a heartbeat in so many ways. That's the scary side. I mean, you can sit in your house in self-isolation, and it's so easy to imagine for me that you could, if the other side, if and when, because I bet that gets control, they could lock you down, you can't buy or sell, they have total tabs on you, everything. Everything you eat, wherever you would go. I mean, it's crazy. So there really is a stark choice before us right now. The threshing that's going on now is trying to shake people again from their idols, from their false gods, from their false ways, their sins, or even sin in the mind. They're mentally not connected to the Creator. I mean, we have so many people on this planet. Oh my gosh. Still, after that, so there's a lot that's going to go on, because again, Yahweh will be exalted in that day. There will be no other, every high mountain's coming down. Every valley is going to be made low, and there will be a highway. It's going to all get straightened out. And so you have, that's a literal, well, no, I won't say that that's a literal fulfillment, but in the terms of, that's used mostly in the terms of our minds, in terms of polemics, the truth will surface. The truth will be made manifest. It will rise to the top. It will be seen by everybody for what it is and what it has accomplished. And that will turn out to be the gift, and as the glory returns to Israel, all Israel. But you gotta, these are hugely loaded words. All Israel is made up right now of two houses, the Jews, quote unquote, in the fullness of the Gentiles, the Christians today, who really represent the seed of Abraham that has come into this concept of relationship, where they acknowledge Yahweh Elohim as the most high God of Israel, that the high God of Israel is the creator father over all the nations. Okay, this is an understanding. Basically, that's like 101 in either one of those quote unquote houses. All right, now many of the nations see this and do. There's different levels of this, okay? But the point is, at the final level, all the nations. Sorry, that's what the storylines are going about. So because we are in, another prophecy talks about how we're in the days of Noah, the last days will be again like the days of Noah. The reason why these things are global now, or biblical proportions. See, when I just interject this, people need to retool their thinking, because, when Israel, that tribe, left Egypt, the whole world heard about it. This was, we somehow think these are obscure little peoples, their stories are, when the truth comes out, this was a known fact that had just happened in real time, and the nation saw that, and a lot of them did have fear and awe that Yahweh, that this God of these just did this thing. I mean, all right, so we're going back to that kind of a thing where the nations are going to watch and be amazed, be utterly amazed, because he's going to do something in our day. Oh, that you wouldn't even believe, even if someone told you. Just like but see, we had to wait. This harvest, oh my gosh, this cycle has been going over and over again. Some of the people out there you can follow. I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, our Jonathan Cahn, look at his new book, The Oracle. Seeing again America and our role, the whole thing, as this Ephraimite people still struggling with their identity and getting the idols out of them. All right, being able to focus again on the storyline, who they are, and worshiping the one true God according to His ways. This is huge to the storyline, but I get ahead of myself. So, friend or foe, the court, we're going to beat. What are they? There's so many different things to call it. COVID-19, right? But what the world will be like after that is going to be so different. All right, and I think that, okay, now, Trump is trying to orchestrate what this is so interesting to me, because what I really do see, now I do believe, okay, the two houses have a governmental, I have just been through this. This is foundational archetypal understanding. The Bekara and the Bekora. The birthright and the blessing. The blessing is on Ephraim, which is material prosperity. It is and it was such a necessary thing, because as they went to every part of the earth, these people that had an innate sense to live as in the school of Hillel, do unto your neighbor as you would have done unto yourself. There's a basic humanity, all right, in this seed, that wherever it went and they ascribed to that, they would prosper. Yahweh would bless them. He promised he would bless them. And they have blessed the nations. And so much of that seed. And when you talk about seed, see, we have to talk about these things. Not being locked into political correctness. Oh, because seed and offspring, when he's always talking about people's souls. Okay? This inner invisible thing. Okay? I might have this outer shell that, you can look at me and obviously, female, white, whatever. Peg me however you want, quickly. But my soul, you have to sit around and listen to my YouTubes. You'd have to really spend time to understand who I am on the inside. And that's what he's looking at, because it's your inside that is the originator. That's the part that's going to rise up, that is made to be immortal, is the soul. The body can be fashioned on a dime because the elements of the earth, okay? It is that soul that has to be recreated in the image and the likeness again of Yahweh Elohim. And this is a worldwide process, and many religions and many ascribe and bring humanity along that way more and more. The golden rule is everywhere, all right? But within this context of the two houses, there is a birthright and a blessing. There is a story that Yahweh promised he would have a people. He would have a plant of righteousness. There's so many allegories. There would be a light on a hill, that there would be a sure word of prophecy. There would always be a remnant. There would always be a light for the nations, anyone, for Judah, Ephraim, or for any of the nations, to come to the Creator Father, all right? Because ultimately, this is obviously where we're going. Now remember, this world is not our home. We're not looking for, to reform all the different 7 mountains of this world, okay, whatever you want to look at it. We're not here to try to make the perfect government. We're not here to try to feed all the people. We're not here to, okay, we're here as the elect to keep the light on, to try to bring the truth and the light on to open people's eyes to what's going on, that is their soul, okay, that is at stake. And that is of an eternal, that weight of that soul, if you could weigh it, as far outweighs all the gold of the world, okay, there's nothing that can compare. So how does Ephraim do this? Well, see, Ephraim has been doing this all for 2,000 years, in a renewed covenant with Yahweh, all right? See, through the new covenant, through Yeshua, Messiah, and Joseph, these archetypes are so meaningful, because you can understand, now looking back, what's been going on. Yes, we have been bringing bread, this bread of life. Remember, he said, I am the bread of life for Ephraim, who's out there among the nations, all right? Just scattered all over on every hill, with all these shepherds over them that are just, most of them are not nice and good shepherds. Okay, this is all the analogy. But the point is, it's different today. We've been progressing. He's been gathering his people together. He has been gathering Judah. And that was the promise. He would settle her again in her land. He would give her back her scepter. He would enable her to have a visible piece of the land. See, people Judah has the city and the temple. Those are given to Judah in Jerusalem. Okay, that city is a holy city, but it's just the city of the king. All right, the thing that has to be understood, the earth is the Lord. Well, the Lord is the king. So the earth belongs to the king. Who is the king? It is, people, let's get it right. It's Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. Now, I'm not trying to, and it's Hashem. All right, I totally get Hashem. I should use Hashem. I do use Hashem. But today, arguments say because to AKA to the Gentile Jesus, Christian, it's Jesus. Well, this is only half the story. The understanding of Jesus is only half of this. You have to know him, and even knowing him as Hashem isn't going to tell you really Messiah ben Joseph. That's sort of been written out of the storyline, okay? You've got to get back up here to this understanding of the Tetragrammaton and what was contained in that, and that's what we need to release again to the nations. And it's happening. Now, one of the quote-unquote prophets, all right, and I don't say that, all right, there is a very strong prophetic voice out there, and I was listening to, and they were saying, and I do want to agree with this, because this coming up Passover is so hugely important. Like, we're at a couple of really critical forks in the road, all right? And because of the birthright blessing, one is always the physical, the prosperity, to get the job done in the world, what we've been called to do. And the other one is the birthright, the spiritual inheritance, and the storyline. I mean, if you don't know who's your father and who you're firstborn of, who you're supposed to represent, well, what's the point, I mean, it's like, all right? So Judah has kept this for us, all right? Messiah ben Joseph came out of Judah, okay? He was a prince of Judah, all right? Messiah ben David will come out of the lineage of David, a prince, all right? That is given, all right, to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, to the house of David, the clan of, I mean, it's pretty amazing to see this happening, that the nation came back. Biggest, clearest sign out there. But the place, Ephraim has still been a little bit hidden, but Ephraim is rising right now. This is so amazing. But Ephraim leads now. I'm telling you, all right, Ephraim, if you look at America and Britain, you look at, and see, this is what I mean, where it is, you cannot denegate this discussion into just literal level needs. We are talking about conditions of people's souls. I've said this. People all over the world respond to the gospel, to the concept of a, just say a loving father, but at the same time who has commandments, who has a way you have to live. You don't just live lawlessly. This is, I mean, I know that there's the whole branches in the, even my cat to kind of think that way, but it's not going to play out that way. So without holiness, without sanctification, without zeal, without so many of the things, holiness, what did I say? And the elect righteousness. You won't see the Lord. You're not a representative of the Father, of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, if you don't have those kind of fruits in your life. This is something Ephraim's beginning to get. But what's going on, okay, in the blessing birthright, would be the prosperity, would be the ability, would be this divine blessing to be the provider, all right, to have the storehouse in your territory. Because even literally, Ephraim had, it says in a lot of the Midrash that their territory was so rich, they didn't need anything else. They had everything they needed. It was just a huge breadbasket, and along with Manasseh. And, okay, so, well, I shouldn't digress. So this is really important to understand. This is where America, this is at the end of the age. It says that there would be so many of Ephraim in the West, which is where technically this country is, because, see, we represent not a people, not a race, not a certain ethnicity. We represent all the people, but we represent how people can live together. This is the way Ephraim should have been. I left them, we got to get back to work, because that is really the heart of Ephraim. Oh my God, they're just like the workhorse. They can't not work because everything, like, in it, when it's being blessed, I mean, what does it say? The reaper will overtake the thresher, they just, everything they make turns to gold, all right? There's such an inherent prosperity, and it's true, people, you don't understand this. The middle class that developed in America over about 200 years, we'll never see anything like that. That was like, whoa, how'd those people do that? Everybody could have. So these are, so many people have written and talked about this. I don't want to go over a lot of this, but it's just critical to understand that Ephraim, through Trump, is beginning to get back their mojo. Now, I don't know if these people at this level, some of them have eyes to see, and I think some of them do, but you understand, in evangelical Christianity, I love you. I am one, that is my, I spent most of my years with Yahweh in that camp. I know now you have certain pockets of blindness. There's so things to this thing you don't see. You don't see yourself as Ephraim. You see yourself traditionally as having replaced you, then forget all that, but you're coming out of that. And this is, in understanding the place of Israel in the land, which we're really talking about Judah, that it's really, I didn't finish that point. It's really the house of David, the city of Jerusalem, the city of Arad, and the land belongs to all the Lord. So all of the earth is what he's talking about. And he talks about he's going to give them back the land. It has nothing to do, I've said it so many times, okay? And this is why people, even fundamentalists who don't understand, who stick with the shot level, this is historically fall in league with the wicked one to start wars and things because they just don't really understand. It all stays in a literal level to them. Makes them good foils for Satan to get behind. But this concept, two things, that there's always a very spiritual, a very spiritual import going on, and then there's also something that's very physical that will demonstrate it. So Ephraim arising, what I'm saying about this, right now I believe that Trump, and this is really important, and this is why evangelicals, even though I know you don't understand yet, like who your brother is, Judah, okay, part of the 10 tribes, 12 tribes, we're all the same sheep. There's one shepherd and there's one flock in the end. We're dispersed all over the world, but the hub centers for those birthright blessings is the land over there, the city of Jerusalem, which Trump did recognize it happened, people, and this country, all right, which represents a blessed land in the end, would prophetically, Ephraim would get back its mantle, all right, its blessing mantle, for two hugely important, and this is it, people, for it to be a place of refuge out of the dragon's reach in this time which we're going into of these birth pains, all right, this is it. There is a place for the righteous. He always said they would give them another place. We have another place for what going on 300-400 years now. Let me just interject this because it is so interesting as all of these, the puzzle pieces kind of get put back in their right place so you kind of can see what you're looking at. This country was founded, the oldest city is St. Augustine in Florida, by far. I think like 160 years was settled. And then people always think it started in Boston. Now, I know the history is written to a certain extent by the victors, okay? Because, yeah, I'm a northerner, and we always think that our history, the Pilgrims came to, to Plymouth Rock, and that started the whole thing rolling. Well, lo and behold, there was a huge government and huge pockets of population in the southern part for, like I said, 150, 200 years already. But this is so interesting how Yahweh was bringing both houses here, because the Plymouth, those who landed there, these people were the offspring. This is Ephraim coming back. This is to another place. These people are led by a vision and a trajectory. Some of them had really high level understandings. Some of them just knew, because life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or your destiny, your God-given destiny, are inherent rights that Ephraim somehow really did carry with them through the nations, and has always been a struggle to governments, for peoples to be able to govern themselves the way Yahweh inherently wants people to govern themselves. Even though he does put governments over them, but they're supposed to be subject. They have a king over them, which most of the time, they don't recognize, well, whatever. That's a whole other story. Ephraim arising, and even now Trump is trying to renegotiate kind of the fact that they are not to be the nation. See, if you give your birthright away in any way, the nations will take it, all right? We need to remain in the driver's seat on the world economy and demanding it be done on a Torah level. And the more we can have a reunification of all Israel, and the more we can listen to and understand and get a handle on the law, and this, that we can drive righteousness to such a level for the righteous, right? There is going to be two things going on. There's going to be continued blessing on the righteous, all right, because they're going to be seen in the earth. Their light is going to start shining. They're going to rise. You're going to see that there are people that, wow, the plagues, the birth, these things, we're going into plagues. We're going into biblical proportion type of pandemic. This is just one thing, because see, let me just say this, the days of Noah, we're at the level of like weather warfare. It's not global warming, but to a certain extent, yes, we do abuse our planet. We are not good, but it's the level of what's going on between the nations is at the technological level of weather warfare. This is like the Nephilim. This is what was going on before the flood. This is kind of a Babel level where they really, all right, and then pandemic or biological warfare that can affect, and it has happened before, but the other side is going to unleash upon us levels of harm and destruction that it's unparalleled, and it's going to cause two things. Let me come back to that, because I really want to finish my point. Ephraim, we need to retain our birthright to the blessing, that we are and it isn't just the bread physical. This is Ephraim's, this was their trip up, because let me just say this also, because when the two houses split, half of it was because Ephraim, they knew they had this blessing on them, and they knew that they could just produce amazing amounts of goods for the world and for trade, for Israel to be due to the kings, Solomon and then his son Rehoboam, sucked all that just right out of there. See, this is a real important concept. Sucked all that wealth right down to build their vision, which wasn't, I will say, wasn't necessary, which was for the time and for the season. Okay, for every time of the season, exactly what Yahweh wanted done. But then it was done, and then the Jeroboam came from the north representing the rest. Okay, fine, we did the big building projects. We got this glorious kingdom. I want to go back. We want to keep, because most of the wealth of nations or territories is for themselves and their people. Okay, you're supposed to be able to plant your own food, get your own crops, your minerals, your water, things. And it was all given and appointed fairly. This is the whole point with the sons of Noah. Oh my gosh. But this is then the problem, is people aren't warning and stealing and bribing and taking. This has just been the story. But that's another. But as Ephraim arises with this understanding, we have a unique destiny. We have a unique. Our God is the God of Israel. This is something, all right, that was who the founders got their whole framework. No one's going to rip, this is what I mean. Spiritually, bread feeds people on many levels, okay, but spiritually also, Ephraim has a blessing to give to the nations, which is called the gospel, which is the fact that it's being used to move, and it's going to switch now, all right? Ephraim needs to go back, take all of its resources it has, just like I think, and I hope Trump can push this through, put us back on a standard, more of a gold standard, something, a monetary system. But see, again, this is Ephraim's problem. If we don't turn to Judah, that's why the spiritual is always a component. This Passover is one of the most important Passovers coming up. I mean, that's what one of the prophets even said. This is a very, because how are we going to do this? Is is God, because I'll say that now in this context, I will, God gonna bless? Let me say this, I'm asking this question of anybody out there, because I don't even know the answer. I'm asking Yahweh, I'm like, are you gonna bless Ephraim through Trump, doing what he's doing, and yet they're by Passover, which is Easter, well, by the spring, into the spring feast, but basically Passover is what we call Good Friday, or would be in the crucifixion. Okay, the death of the Passover lamb. So you gotta understand it from both perspectives, all right? Are we going to see, are we going to begin to come together? Because I cannot believe Trump, even with his, people are just, they just are, even with his relationship with Jared Kushner, the relationships that are there are so personal and deep. And this is one of the things about the biblical relationship. These people were like, all intermarrying with each other. There were so many connections a lot of times. There's so many connections in that family. It's unbelievable. But why they don't understand, I am listening, trying to listen to the prophets and other people saying what's going on. But everybody in my opinion is just like totally falling short and dropping the ball. It's like, hello, Joseph, reveal yourself to your brothers. Okay, let's get this show on the road. If this Passover, we can't begin to have some kind of a shift. This concept of the two houses has been out there. There needs to be breakthrough into the evangelical camp. Your eyes need to be opened on this one to a certain extent. And Judah, you need to understand Messiah ben Joseph, the bread, he has sustained us for 2 days. Okay, can't do it. Now, what I wanted to say about there's one, okay, so I read a lot of the Dead Sea Scrolls. I'm convinced that the Essenes, this is the camp, right, that Yeshua, that this righteous remnant, oh my gosh, who had mysteries, understood this stuff on the deepest level. When the War Scroll is one of the texts they found, I mean, nobody ever heard this. This came out of nowhere. Okay, and you read it, and I'll tell you to read it. It is one of the trickiest texts in the whole. I mean, I'm like, what are they doing? I mean, is it a war really? You gotta say, is it real blood and guts? It is a very graphic war manual. That's why I call the war. Okay, but no, it's not. And this is the level of the prophet. They're not using the analogies, the words literally. Okay, so when you read the Word Scroll, but I understand now that this war that's been going on from the get-go since Cain and Abel, okay, of the sons of light and the sons of darkness. And it's so much out there to unpack, literally. But we can't right now. They're at war with each other, all right? They're seed. This was said, the two seeds that are in you, they're going to war against each other, all right? That was told to Eve, but she had, and that was told to Jacob, or I mean to Rebecca, Rachel, all right, let's get it straight. All right, the point that I want to make is these two sides, it's a war of polemics. It's a war of ideas. It's a war of worldview. It's a war of who you serve. Choose you this day. Because if you serve the God of Israel, this Yahweh Elohim, all right, who is God over all the earth, all right, who is coming to take his place as the king, if he is your God, okay, but if not, there's an end game, and then, okay, fine, you're not going to submit, you're not going to kneel, you're not going to acknowledge whatever, but there still is an end game. So we're coming up on this time, the thing that's going to really increase. So that's why we need to be very bold in what we're saying to people. It's coming to an end. The nations are Yahweh's going to thrash the nations. In other words, he's going to shake them so much stuff, they're not going to be able to, they're going to cry out and come under the banner, okay, the banner that's been raised, Hashem was, or they're going to shake their fists. This is the thing. There's going to be a loud noise in all the earth. Babylon and Egypt are the two main archetypes here, because ultimately, the first archetype, I was saying, children, we're the children from Egypt. That was in a literally, physically, a bodily sense. Ephraim has to more be saved from Babylon. Okay, they were carried off by the king of Assyria, never to come back. Judah came back. Our trajectory is very different. We have to shake off these gods of the nations, everything about them that we have brought with us, our baggage, and we have to return, all right, to the God of Israel. And the word to both houses right now at this Passover, it's just like Moses saying to Pharaoh, because now it's being said on a little higher level. Babylon represents, all right, Egypt represents the body. You got to get free in your body, but you also get free in your soul life. Yetzirah, the world of Yetzirah. Babylon represents, you need to get your eyes up. You need to get out of the world systems. You need to get rid of all of that, those alluring, those lovers, those things that you love and do and think and spend time and feed everything and reproduce, when I do, oh, your idols, those are the things, all right, that Babylon, because Babylon was a very attractive kingdom to live in. It's just very prosperous, very attractive. But the thing is, they had a dark side. They had a total ruthlessness. If you rebelled, there was no mercy. Boom. Cut off. And, and that's the story. That was their story. That's why they put such fear in all the earth. Other nations, and that was Judah had every right to be pretty scared, pretty freaked out, but their trust, okay? So Babylon is going to come at us, but we have to come out of her, so to speak. But we're going up higher again to a city prepared by God, by Yahweh, by Adonai, who will bring that city again to the lowest level, and it will spread out over all the earth. The glory of the Lord. It has nothing to do with, it's all of the mental understanding where people are finally, water just spilling and evening out and leveling out. Everything is sparkly and glorious. Everybody is on the same page. We all acknowledge the Father. We see history correctly. All of our anxieties and wars and frustrations on a personal level, inside, in a family, and then just keep going, a family, in your city, town, all the way up to, your relationship with, we got to fix with our Heavenly Mother, but there's a lot of stuff that has to get fixed and corrected. But symptomatic right now, oh my God, that if we don't come together under this Passover and understand that the angel that will pass over by the blood of the Lamb, all right? But what was after that? Then the people were brought out of. Let my people go so that they might come and worship me. See, now is the time that both in Egypt again and in Babylon again, these archetypes of these dark overlords over us, who are spiritual in nature, who include wicked men who align, who literally have a demonic power essence based to them. Okay, now that's the level of threes. This victory will be won by Ephraim, by Judah, individually and as a corporate body as they come together. I can't imagine, seriously, as the relationships got better, the conversations that the boys would be having. I mean, great dramas can be written. There's no end to how you can speculate. But this drama is playing out in worldwide levels, because the seed of Abraham is all over the earth. The seed of Ephraim, you know, has been in all the earth, in the east, the north, the south, and the west. And let me say this, and now I want to give two things to make 2 points. So I guess what I want to say about the war scroll, the war polemics, it's very important in the dialogue. Again now, yes, people, you know, evil triumphs when good men do nothing or say nothing. This is a time to speak. This is a time where you can really and truly gain back some of the ground and speak into the apostasy and the darkness and the idolatry and the rebellion and say, no, okay, we're going back. Do you want to come? Because it says here in one of the war scrolls, one of the Dead Sea Scrolls, on a commentary on Nahum. Nahum's a prophet, actually in the northern kingdom, during the time of the waves of their, when they were being exiled. There's a verse here in Nahum. It says, I will, chapter 3, verse 6 and 7a, 6 to 7. It says, I will cast filth upon you and treat you with contempt and render you despicable, so that all who look upon you shall flee from you. Okay? And again, it's always like, who, what are they talking about? Interpreted. This is a passion. This is, what do you with that? Interpreted, this concerns those who seek smooth things. Now, smooth things is a constant reference to people who, they just want their own way. They just want to hear what they want to hear because they want to keep doing what they're going to be doing. They got their whole life figured out and they want to know how they want to live. And well, of course, if it fits with Torah, fine. But if it doesn't, well, what's going to go? Torah's going to go, of course, right? So, whose evil deeds shall be uncovered to all Israel at the end of time. This is written, well, they say it's dating thing, it was written half a century before 1 BC. So it was written in the last century, the last half of the century before the Common Era. Okay, so these people had some understanding there, but he's saying at the end of time, and these people knew end of time you had to get to 6 days, and there were still going to be 2 more days. Many shall understand their iniquity and treat them with contempt because of their guilty presumption. When the glory of Judah shall arise, and the simple of Ephraim shall flee from their assembly, they shall abandon those who lead them astray and shall join Israel. And really, it's is Judah. Now, this is the thing that's interesting. Ephraim is the one that has to come out and has to go back. This is something Judah has to stop. Well, I won't even talk about Judah. To me, Ephraim right now, if we're going to really take on the mantle of our birthright, our blessing part of the birthright, to be able to be a refuge, to feed the nations, to be an arbitrator and a rescuer and get to be able to come here during this time, then Satan is just going to fight back like crazy with the nations and whatever he can. You know what I'm getting? This is the point. He's going to fight like crazy. But there's a place prepared, and for us to either inherit that mantle and to walk in it, we need to have like Ephraim and Joseph. We got to work together on this one. But we need to understand that we have to give up our kind of. I just see this love affair with doing the things the way the nations do them, because if we don't understand how much our traditions and what we think we know is based on Greek kind of Greek worldview, all right? It's not even Torah based. It's not even Hebraic centric, all right? This is just a really big problem, and it's caused a lot of rub between Judah and Ephraim to the point that Judah calls us Edom. All right, because look at us. These are, all right, but let me just read that again. Interpret, this concerns those who seek smooth things, but whose evil deeds will be uncovered to all of Israel at the end of time. All of Israel, both houses. Everyone is going to see, this is the point, choose you this day. It's going to become very apparent in the true seed of Israel, the true inheritors, who I want to come out from and go and worship Yahweh. You got to come out of these things. You can go and worship Yahweh. You will understand your iniquity and you will treat it with contempt because of the guilty presumption. And this is the thing of an idol. Nobody would, most of the time, they're deceivers. You don't even know. But that's another. When the glory of Judah shall arise, I mean, is the glory of Judah arising in the last 70 years? End times, didn't it say at the end of time, because we know our context, the simple of Ephraim shall flee from their assembly. They shall abandon those who lead them astray, and they shall join Israel. I mean, that's the whole move that people are seeing today when you call it the Hebraic roots. But we need to do this so quickly, in my opinion, if we're going to, I guess, have this glorious finish that is where we truly can work with Judah and help all nations kind of navigate through this time, because it's in every individual soul is going to be affected and is going to have to choose. It's always the same. Choose you this day who you will serve. So I think this is pretty exciting times in one sense. And let me just say this on the last note I want to say. This really threw me for a curve, even though I always felt, it's all going to happen in my lifetime. But it's really started to, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready for this. Because my husband just died recently and very suddenly and totally threw me for a curve. Never saw it coming. I don't even really quite know how to make sense of it and go on. But whatever. Do the best you can. This is going to be quite tumultuous. But when people raise their fists against God, this is the thing. When Babylon falls and when Egypt's final judgment came on them, where the death of the firstborn, it's just there was such a loud lament in Egypt. Pharaoh and everyone lamenting. I mean, it was a cry that went up that you could just hear. I mean, think about it seriously. These people are, even if social media, if something happens on a biblical level and people all of a sudden start tweeting and sharing, I mean, things can go from 0 to 10 in a heartbeat around it, go viral. But don't think it didn't happen back then, okay? This is the sophistication of these cultures. This is something we really need to get. But that loud wail, okay, Babylon, when Babylon falls, Babylon is represented by, again, much higher archetype. The king of Babylon is a much higher spiritual archetype. When that fall comes, fallen is Babylon. And it talks about how the people of Israel, both houses will, when the day their oppressor falls, when this victory is finally gotten over, the last oppressor, which is Babylon, which is spiritually is the other side in our soul. When the people of the earth learn righteousness, oh my God, to choose it, all right, and it's going to become so clear, and he's going to have to put all the wicked on one group because it's just they're not gonna, and the righteous are going to be. I think it's going to be kind of interesting how things are going to play out. Nations coming together in alignment, depending on what their worldview is going to be, where they're going to take their stand. Take your stand. Choose you this day. It's coming down. So, but when my husband died, it was like, it threw me. I was like, oh my gosh, I was so mad at God. I was like, no. It took me, it still does sometimes because it's so arbitrary. It's like, why? Where did that come from? The anger that like, it's unfair. He was young. We had so many plans. I thought I had all these prophecies of things that we were going to do together. Oh my gosh, it threw me for such a curve. But the point is, my choice is either do I raise my fist against Elohim? Elohim people, this is the Elohim. Elohim is the one who's threshing the nation. Sometimes it's very arbitrary. It's very hard. God's ways are very, sometimes very past finding out. And you do have to, it's going to take a lot of faith. It's going to take a lot of courage. It's going to take a lot of tenacity. It's going to take a lot of just don't even look. Put blinders on. Don't see, just stay focused and keep going. Because I'm telling you that thing is going to throw a lot of heat. And one of the traps is going to be, is because if you don't have a really high understanding of what's going on, you're going to get, you're to blame God, to just shake your fist, the anger, the gnashing of the teeth. It's going to be, you have to protect yourself from that. So on that note, it is Psalm 91, but at the same time, and that is Hashem, Yod-Heh, Vav. Blessings. This is going to be really interesting. So come along for the journey. And definitely like, subscribe, hit, and donate if you'd like. Now I bet I'm a widow in Israel. So on that note, shalom again.